Life-Changing Nuggets. I'm Gloria Hamlin, and today we're going to talk about a fella in the Bible named Onesimus. Onesimus, who is he? Well, come on, let's find out. Okay, Onesimus is in the book of Colossians and in the book of Philemon. Now, let me give you the story. In the book of Philemon, it talks about Onesimus was a runaway slave. Now, there was a church that Philemon probably held in his home, and so he had servants, and they were probably very well taken care of because Philemon was a godly person. So we have here this slave who thinks, I don't want that Jesus stuff, like a lot of people today. So he runs away. Well, he runs off to Rome, okay? Big city where he can hide, right? Where he can hide. But he ends up hearing a message by Apostle Paul about Christ. Now, let me tell you something. At this time, Apostle Paul was in prison, but it was more like house arrest. So he could walk outside and go places, and he had messengers and things that would help him. But he must have been able to hear Paul speak, maybe outside to someone passing by, whatever it was. He must have heard Paul speak, and then he became friends with Paul because he realized, he was wrong. But you know what? He couldn't just go right back over to Philemon, because not only did he run away, he stole. He stole money, and then as soon as he got to Rome, he squandered it away, thinking, I'm doing all right. That's the way a lot of people are today. Money's not the root of all evil. It's the love of money. The love of money is the root to a lot of evil, a lot of things, whether it could be greed, it could be adultery, it could be thievery, it could be depression. It's the root to all evil because people think, oh, I got to have money to make it. I got to have money to live. But I'm telling you, money's not your source. God is your source. God just makes a way for you to have a job or someone to hand you money or always to take care of your needs as long as you take care of God first. You see, it all comes down to taking care of God first. Well, Paul really, really likes Onesimus, and he realizes he's really, really changed. And he's growing so much in the Lord. He's learning the Word and everything. So he decides to write a letter to Philemon. It just so happens that while Paul happens to be in prison, he's there for a couple of years in this house arrest, he writes two more letters. He writes one to the church at Ephesus and one at the church at Colossae. But not all at the same time, during this 2 year period of time. So here's what happens with Onesimus. Onesimus has run away. He has stolen. He squandered his life and his money away. And finally, he realized he needs to get back right with Christ. We have a lot of people like that in our family today. Maybe they haven't served Christ like they ought to. Or maybe at one time they were really on fire for the Lord, and now they're not. And it causes us concern and worry. But you know what? All we need to do is just pray, turn them over to God. God's going to take care of that because they've heard the word. And the Bible says it'll not come back void. In other words, they've heard the word. They're going to know who to call out to in time of trouble. So what we have next is Paul writes this letter to Philemon. And you can read it in Philemon. It's in chapter 1. Verses 8 through 22. And I'm going to read that right quick, okay? That is why I am boldly asking a favor of you. I could demand it in the name of Christ because it is the right thing to do. Because of your love, I prefer simply to ask you, consider this as a request from me. Paul, an old man, and now also a prisoner for Christ's sakes. I appeal to you to show kindness to my child Onesimus. I became his father in faith while here in prison. Now let me ask you something. Is there ever been anybody that you felt like you just took them under your wing? Maybe you discipled them or sheltered them? Well, here's the way Paul felt. And I want to tell you something else. Paul was that way with Timothy. Timothy was with Paul from an early age. And then as Timothy grew in the Lord later on in later life, Timothy also went out and ministered. But this is Onesimus, a runaway slave, a thief. Somebody you think has no hope. But you see, there's not anything too hard for God. God will forgive you. God will forgive that loved one that's hurt you. God will forgive and restore. God will forgive and restore. Think about that a minute. God will forgive and restore. Let me finish reading. Onesimus hasn't been much of use to you into the past, and now he's very useful to both of us. I'm sending him back to you, and with him comes my own heart. All right, all of a sudden now he's going to send Onesimus back to Philemon. Philemon has the legal right to kill him because he was a runaway slave and he stole from him. You got to realize, Onesimus was a slave, but he was in the household where they held church. Godly, spirit-filled church. So he heard the word. Does that make you think of somebody that was raised up in the church, raised up in the admonition of the Lord, and they've run away from it right now? I'm here to tell you, don't lose hope. Don't lose faith. God has a plan. God has a plan. Let me finish reading. Paul says, I wanted to keep him here with me for a while. I'm in exchange for preaching the good news, and he would have helped me on my behalf. But I didn't want to do anything without your consent. I wanted to help you because you were willing and not because you're forced. It seems you lost Onesimus for a little while so that you could have him back forever. He's no longer like a slave to you. He is more than a slave. He is a beloved brother, especially to me. Now he will mean much more to you, both as a man and as a brother in the Lord. Wow. Wow. It tells me that Onesimus found out the truth. He had heard it in the church. He ran from it, but now he came back to it. Doesn't the Bible say, I will save you and your whole household? I've already told you the word will not come back void. If you've raised your children, or if you've ministered to your friends or your loved ones about the Lord, and they served the Lord at one time, but now they're away from it, you don't need to worry about them. Just keep praying for them. They're in God's hands because God has a plan. And that plan for them is going to turn out better than you ever thought. Look at Onesimus. Onesimus was a slave. And if he went back, he could either be another slave again and maybe have worse work to do, or he could be killed because of what he did. But because of this letter that Paul's writing to his brother Philemon, he's now telling them that Onesimus is serving God and telling people about God, and he'll be a help to you, not a hindrance. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! That's a better plan. That's what God's got for you and your loved ones, a better plan. So, if you consider me your partner, welcome him as you would welcome me. If he has wronged you in any way or owes you anything, charge it to me. I, Paul, write this with my own hand. I will repay it, and I won't mention that you owe me for your very soul. Yes, my brother, please do me a favor for the Lord's sake and give this encouragement to Christ. Wow. Paul so believed in the truth confession and the servitude of Onesimus, he was willing to repay any debt he had. Christ so believes in you and your loved ones, he was willing to pay the ultimate debt. He gave his life for you and for those you're praying for. So maybe they've stepped out, maybe they've taken a detour and gotten away from their teachings. Rest assured, God has a plan, and that plan will be so much better than what they even left for. This is Gloria Hamlin. I want to thank you for listening to Life Changing Nuggets. If you enjoyed this message, please subscribe, and when the bell appears, hit that bell, and every time a new video comes up, it'll let you know we've got a new one on. If you need to contact me, it's at Spirit of Truth Ministries, and it's the email is revhamlin@yahoo.com. I also have a Facebook page, which is Spirit of Truth Ministries Lubbock. If you're interested in any ebooks, just go to Amazon.com and type in Gloria Hamlin. All my books will pull up. Again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.